We're going to start now just to keep it going to make sure we have time to get through anything. But if you're just joining, thank you so much. So we're at Stress Management and Vision Boards. That's the forum you're at right now, because you have to learn to treat yourself, sweetie, because who else will? Okay, so if you're wondering who we are, I am International Trustee Aminhan Lobster. For the next about 24 hours, I serve the Florida District, WIAM, and Bahamas. Let's go, Flohama WIAM!
Hi guys, my name is Schnack. I am the Key Club International President for the next 24 hours. Yeah, it's really exciting. We're glad to have you here. Thank you, Aminhan. Yeah, I'm from the Nebraska-Iowa district, more specifically Nebraska, small town.
So some kind of rules. We're all here to celebrate. We're all here to be nice to each other. So make sure to keep everything clean and keep club friendly in the chat. So the chat is just for general comments, anything you guys have to say. You guys are like blowing it up in there. I absolutely love the energy. Keep it going. But the Q&A section, you'll see that there's a button down there, and it's for any questions you have. So we'll both be monitoring the question and answers. We'll be answering most questions at the end, but again, feel free to throw your questions in there. We would love to hear them. But so for right now, we're gonna start. Okay, so everyone, you got goals? Good, because everyone does. If it's a dream vacation or a dream career, you should always have something to work towards. For example, my dream job is becoming a Supreme Court justice. Let's go RBG. And I know that requires a lot of steps and a lot of hard work. So that's why I like constant reminders of what I'm working towards. So do you have constant reminders that you keep? Why I say that is because you need to visualize, and visualize again. It does sound like a bunch of mumbo jumbo manifesting and visualization, but studies prove that it can improve motivation, confidence, and even motor performance. So how do you start this process of creating a vision board? Well, first you have to define your goals, then you get some inspo, and then you put up a board, like a map to your future. So what are your dreams made of? No dream is too little or too big. Time to visualize what you could do with your Fortnite skins. You want to go to college for theater arts? Put some music pictures up. You want to be a chef? Put some chicken legs on that board. Really, a vision board is really about what you deem important and what you want to work towards. It's something that you can always keep in mind and always see to constantly help motivate you. So again, nothing is too big or too small. If they were easily achievable, they wouldn't be dreams. So put anything on that vision board. So some tips and tricks, helpful hints. I'm a vision board veteran. So you need to mix all facets of your personality and your lifestyle, whether that be your health-wise, if you really want to work out, your job, the career you're working to, your spirituality, and your relationships. Also, make sure to show your strongest self in the vision board. Nothing is too far off. So when you create your vision board, really think about it being the life of the glowed up version of you. And also don't forget to leave room for future goals and celebrations. Your vision board should be ever changing. You could add things weekly, monthly, quarterly, anything you would like as you find new loves, new aspirations, new dreams, and new goals, add them on there. Also, you are out of this world, so make sure your goals are too. So here are some examples of a vision board. This is kind of the traditional. So you can see vision boards are mostly made out of magazine clips. You can print popular quotes. You see there are some inspirational pictures thrown there, but there are quotes, there are like words that are triggered. For me, every time that I have a vision board, I have a main quote, kind of like a yearly quote. If you were at Icon last year, you saw that like my campaign slogan was like, be the ripple that starts the wave, and that was also the center of my vision board. It's kind of what I centered everything else around. So make sure you don't have to have a theme. It can be collage, like show Teza how it's done. There are so many different ways to do it. This is kind of a way to let your creativity fly. So again, these are just some examples of like a traditional vision board. You can also make it virtual. I know some of my friends personally, they make like virtual vision boards and they have collages on their home screen or their lock screen, so they see it every time they open up their phone. On your computer, you can also make it your like desktop wallpaper. These are just some examples. If I was making a personal vision board, this is kind of what mine would look like. I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Politician with Ben Platt, but it is my vibe. I literally love it. And as I said earlier, one of my goals is to become a Supreme Court justice, or definitely go into the law side of things. So of course, there's two pictures of Ben Platt looking all political. Also, it's a goal of mine to always be kind. No matter what I do, I really want to be conscious of how I treat others and how I'm interacting with others. You can't be the ripple that starts the wave if you're negative and positive and always putting people down. And also, something you may or may not know about me is I'm really into fashion. I'm really into clothes. So the Chanel purse and the high heels are just my vibe.
You have a physical virtual board as well, right?
Yes, I do.
What are some examples of things that you have on that?
Well, I have all types of things. As I said, I have printed out quotes. Also, as you see behind me, I have a really big bookshelf. I'm so into books. I'm so into reading. So even if you want to create a physical space, my bookshelf is kind of my vision board. I have pictures of my friends. Actually, this is a picture of me at Icon last year. If you can see, with my homies from my club. I have different quotes. I have different plaques. So even if you want to create a visual, like a physical visual space that reminds you of your goals and aspirations, I would also recommend that. There's never too much like visualization. There's never too much reminders.
That's adorable. I love it. Which, by the way, Amina, you might have to check the Q&A because I can't manage it when I'm presenting. So just heads up.
I got you. So you may think, I don't really know what I want. So how am I supposed to make a vision board? Well, it doesn't matter. Just make a theme. Make some awesome playlists and put it on the board. You bake the best chocolate chip cookies, make a baker chic board. Also, never forget your practical goals. As fun as this is really about every aspect of our future. So don't forget to be financially savvy, baby. We have to put practical goals on there because that's also what we're working toward. So make sure you put things like saving that coin on your board. You can do anything you want on your vision board. There are no rules except one. And that only rule is it should be a reflection of what you want in your life. Make sure it is intentional and cohesive when you go the theme route. Or just have an open-ended board. Just have a board of images and pictures that spark joy, and be open to what you put on it. Not only can that determine what you should focus on in the future, but it can also clarify what you deem important if you kind of struggle on that self-reflection point or the inventory point. Or you may know exactly what you want. I am very much a planner, sometimes a perfectionist. So this is kind of my jam. So be very clear about your life goals. If you want to be a Supreme Court justice, put a picture of the robe on there and Photoshop your face. If you want a Honda Civic, put a Honda Civic on there. If you want to change an environment, put a picture of a garden. Put a picture of someone who's really influential in that field. If you want to be a coffee queen, put a picture of that Starbucks gold status, or put a picture of someone giving a hug, because I know I want one of those. So if you can dream it, you can see it. So sweetie, all things are possible. Just make sure to remember that. So also extra bounty points if you make it all cute and aesthetic. I know sometimes it can be daunting to think about the future, to think about good, big goals, but the more you have, the more fun you have while making something like this, the more you're going to be intentional about it, the more you're going to look at it, and the more you're going to actually make little markers to make sure you get to this big goal. Also, don't forget to place it somewhere visible. Keep your eyes on the prize. So often people make vision boards and they forget to put it in a place that is constantly seen. The science behind it is when it's somewhere constantly, have it as a decoration in your room. Like I said, my bookshelf is a physical aspect of my vision board. I have quotes on my lock screen and home screen, and my physical vision board is put up on the wall in my room. Always keep it fresh and don't be afraid to update or change your goals. The moment you stop growing is the moment you have a problem. So if you completely redo that thing mid-year, that's totally fine, because you're always growing as a person, you're always changing, you're finding new things about yourself, and maybe you're changing and growing. So it's okay for your vision board or the things that inspire you to change and grow along with that.
Do you want to answer a few questions from the Q&A before we move on to the more stress management side of things?
Yes, of course. Why is your presentation so cute? Thank you so much. I made it on Canva with animation. If you were wondering, will we get a copy of these slides? Of course. Both me and Kaylina have our emails at the end. If you would like a copy of these slides, just email us and we'll be more than happy to send it to you guys. How do we achieve the same level of vibes as you both do? Make vision boards and make sure to manage your stress. Meditation tips. There are multiple things about meditation. I'm not super into it because I find it really hard to focus, but I
Talk
would
about
create a
that.
space for yourself, a space that you really enjoy and love. And also you have to start small. So if it's maybe just 5 minutes of guided meditation or 3 minutes of guided meditation, there's also so many apps out there like Headspace and different things that can kind of lead you through that process and help you start. How do you discover or define your goals? This is a really good question. For me, it's just, I've always known what I wanted to do was help people. And because that's always been like a knee-jerk reaction for me. So like your goals are really what you're attracted to, and you just build off of those. Think about the life that you want in 10 years and build your goals around that, because again, there's nothing that's not possible as long as you're dedicated to constantly building yourself.
Can I speak
Um,
on the past two questions, Mina?
yes.
For the meditation thing, I have just recently started getting into meditation. So like for all the beginners out there that are kind of wanting to get into it, I put on Harry Styles' Fine Line song, and I just sit there for those solid 6 minutes and I just listen to it. And I like, it's usually after like I either work out or I just had a tough moment, put those earbuds in and just sit there and just listen to that beautiful voice. And that's kind of like my way to like think like, hey, you know, it's life, and like it's a way to calm down, and it's such a soothing song. So like that's one way that I found that I'm slowly getting to meditation, and knowing myself. So yeah.
I'm going to answer one last question before we continue. And if you have questions, don't worry, we're going to try and get to them. Is it better to have a physical or a virtual vision board? It's kind of what fits your lifestyle best, and you can even do both. I know a virtual vision board is really good for someone on the go, because when you have a physical one, you're not getting that time to interact with it constantly, see it constantly. So having something on your laptop or your phone is really good. But I love the process of making a physical vision board. It's something fun. You can do it with friends. So really my answer is both. Whatever works for your lifestyle. There are no rules. So my queen here is going to start to talk about stress management. I'll be monitoring questions, and I'll type answers if possible.
And don't be afraid to interrupt me at any time, Amina, if a question pops up or if you have a thought. So yeah, how does stress management fit into vision board making, meditating, all that stuff? I mean, it's closely related. I think we all know that. But actually like reflecting on that is a whole different process and can oftentimes be quite overwhelming. So before you kind of like go into this whole like, how do I manage my stress? How do I go about my goal making? There's quite a few things that you do need to consider about yourself and about those that you surround yourself with. So the first question that like you have to start from ground one is, how can you help others if you do not first help yourself? And this is something that has always been said to us as students, even adults, right? But it's hard to actually understand what that means. And it actually took me about 2 years to finally figure it out. And I only just came to this revelation about 2 days ago. And that's like, how are you going to keep a piece of yourself if you're constantly giving it away, right? And it's kind of hard to figure that out. And that's through like meditation and vision board making that you can figure that out. But again, like if you're constantly giving a part of yourself out, what's left for you to reflect on, what's left for you to goal set on. And that goes into how much are you keeping of yourself. For me, I guess for social media, like you're constantly sharing things, right? Social media is a fun thing that we all love. And now with like private snaps and spam, like Instagram accounts where we just like complain a lot and go off, that's like our own kind of way of coping. You're sharing a lot, and sometimes like you might feel overwhelmed and it's kind of hard to pinpoint, but ask yourself, like, am I sharing too much, or am I giving too much of myself away through those? And that kind of leads me to the next question, which is, what boundaries do you have set in place? What boundaries do you have set in place on being vulnerable in these situations? And how are you handling your stress? And are you simply just complaining and ranting to your friend, which can be great and all, but what boundaries do you have set with your friend on things you can talk about, whatever? And then, is it possible to delegate to relieve your stress? Is it possible to give a task to a friend? Is it possible to just dump everything on your parents or your peers or your teachers? Or how can you express the stress that you have? And then, what are the possible repercussions of not taking care of yourself? And there's a few that I can name right now, which is burnout, which is not being able to keep going through your work and just being completely exhausted. It's also a midlife crisis. I think we've probably all experienced that, at least within the past 3 months of not knowing where we're going in life and that uncertainty, and just, again, being completely overwhelmed. So yeah, those are just some things to consider before you start your journey. I always ask myself these questions every about month or two and kind of redirect myself and my goals. So what does self-care truly look like? Self-care has kind of been a fad recently, in the past 2 years, I mean. And so it kind of like, it's marketed as this thing where you're putting on face masks, you're taking a bath with a bath bomb, or you're laying in bed and going through Instagram, or you're on Netflix and things like that. And it's kind of hard to, really focus on yourself when all these markets are like coming at you, right? Capitalism at its finest, am I right? But allowing yourself to have productive breaks is kind of the best way to go. So social media breaks may not actually be helping you. So like, I know for a while that I would be like, I would set a time from like about 6 o'clock at night to 7 o'clock at night. That's my time just to be Kaylina, right? And I'd find myself, I'd go to Instagram or Snapchat or Twitter a lot. And within that break, when it got to the 7 o'clock mark, I'd be like, oh, okay, I'll just have 10 more minutes, and then 10 more minutes. And then eventually it was another 2 hours later. And then I was like, well, crap, I have all this stuff due at midnight and I don't have time to do it because I was sitting on social media. But for me, that was my break, and I was justifying that. And sometimes social media breaks oftentimes keeps our brain going. It keeps it thinking, constantly wishing and desiring for more because of the ads and the people that we see. So it might not actually be helping you. But that kind of leads me into experimenting intentionally about what self-care looks like to you. Self-care might actually look like face masks and taking a bath for you, or sleeping in, or like getting a nice dinner. But also it might look like goal setting and meditating, or just trying to think about yourself in the most unconceited way, and kind of focus on what are your goals and what are your aspirations for the future. And experimenting intentionally means you're intentional about every action that you put forth. So is social media, if like scrolling through Twitter, is that really, really intentional for you? Do you have a goal or objective out of that? And then another thing is unsubscribing from stress culture. This is definitely big in our society where it's kind of a play up. Like you will talk to your friends at school, well, now virtual school, I guess, where you're like, oh, I stayed up till 3 a.m. last night working on stuff. And then someone will try to one up you by like, oh, well, I stayed up till 5. Or someone will be like, I pulled an all-nighter. And we all like try to one up each other, that we're more productive. And I think that's just, it's kind of gross. Am I wrong? Like it's kind of
so
where
true.
it's not healthy. Like just because you stayed up all night, like that does not mean like you know were more productive. You were harming yourself essentially. So, and this is something that society has taught us is cool or in the norm when it's really not. So that's what stress culture is, and try to unsubscribe from that and not follow that can be daunting because you're not following the crowd. What is burnout and how do I prevent this? So if you don't take care of yourself and if you're overwhelmed and you become exhausted, that can lead you to burnout. Burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. It occurs when you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. My first experience with burnout was last year. I served as international trustee. It was in January of that term where I just stopped with everything, right? I was like, man, like I can't send out this email, or it was so hard for me to work on homework. And it was because I was going, and I never took a single day off. And if I did take a day off, it was through unproductive breaks, right? Like going through social media, ignoring all my responsibilities, not thinking about my goals, and being intentional about the things I was doing. So yeah, I experienced burnout, and it's that's where my journey really started with vision board making, stress management, and really being focused on myself, and again, in the most unconceited way. So there's a few methods that you can prevent burnout. The first method that I highly recommend and has worked so much for me is the 1 day a week method. So you select 1 day a week where you do not answer phone calls, text, emails, work on schoolwork for the entire day. I mean, like if you want to answer text with friends, right? But I mean like work related or schoolwork, key club. And you just take it off and you let everyone know around you your boundaries. Like, hey, like I'm not going to be working on anything. I'd prefer if you wouldn't contact me about it, and things like that. So for my president's term this past year, I selected Sunday as my day, and I let the board know and the governors that I served know that like, hey, like I'm not answering anything on Sunday. And then that night I used to go line dancing with my friends, and it was the most fun night that I looked forward to. I looked forward to it each week. If I had a bad day, I'd be like, it's okay. Like I can let it all out on Sunday. Like I can complain to my friends. I can meet new people, dance my life away. It was fun. And then separating personal life from work, school, etc. And that also involves Key Club. So, working on homework in bed or, let's see, on the couch might not be the best because, your personal lives are revolved around that as well. And you start relating those two objects, like, oh, climbing in bed, your mind subconsciously is like, oh, you should stay up and work on stuff or you can't fall asleep. So yeah, another example more so for like technology is your different desktop screensavers on your computer. I have one saved for Key Club and I have one saved for personal life. So when I want to work on Key Club stuff, I switch it over to a different picture and it kind of puts me in a different mood, right? And then obviously vision boards. That's a big thing that Amina talked about. I have my vision board hanging up on my wall, and I have things from books. I have things from items that I might want to own someday. I recently started a blog, so like all my blog post ideas is on there. So that really helps me like not freak out and be overwhelmed because I have it all laid out in front of me. Another one is a letter about you write from the perspective of your future self to your past self about 3 months in advance. So it's a weird concept. I actually haven't done this, but I have seen people who have participated in this and had really good results. So essentially it's your future self who has accomplished all the goals that you want to accomplish, telling you how it feels and what it looks like. And you read it, whenever you feel like it, and it kind of puts you in the mindset of, oh, I'm going to achieve this. Another thing is the whiteboard workspace. This is something that I kind of obtained and got the idea from over quarantine. I purchased a whiteboard, but you can easily convert a mirror into a whiteboard. You have plastic sheets to put papers in that can easily be a whiteboard. It's super cheap if you want to make it. So right now, I guess an example is and it's probably gonna be backwards. I'm working on a plant stand for my dad, and so I visually like drew out like, oh, these are the plants I want. This is what the pot I want to look like. This is my budget, things like that. And I have that hanging in my room, and I wake up looking at it, and I fall asleep looking at it. And if I ever like easily want to change something or add something, I can do that because it's a whiteboard, it's erasable, whatever. So yeah, that's a good technique that I like to use.
Two
And
things I would also recommend is also journaling. Journaling helps me so much. Anytime I'm feeling overwhelmed or just don't like my feelings, I like to jot it all out. That's a really good way to help start with the process of self-reflection if you don't even understand what you're feeling. So I would really recommend journaling. It can help leaps and bounds.
I agree. Do we have any questions before we move on to these slides?
Yeah, so we have some discussion questions at the end, but I would like to answer some of your questions that you guys sent in to us. So the first one is, how do you stop yourself from being scared to dream big?
Oh, that's deep.
Yeah, it is. And I totally relate to this one. Fun fact, being an international trustee was once on one of my vision boards, but I'm from the Mohawk district, which is what I like to call a medium district. We hadn't had an international candidate in I think 10 to 11 years. So it seems like a really hefty goal, really far away from me. But the thing is, you really have to live by the motto of, would you rather regret failing, or would you rather know that you tried and failed? So I think it's so important it's okay to be scared, but never let that fear control you. So just kind of be Nike and just do it anyway.
Right. Living in discomfort is obviously scary and uncomfortable, right? But the opportunities that come from that discomfort are so much better than just keeping in your comfort zone and not exploring things that you might never have found. So yeah.
So someone asked, how do we keep up with our vision boards or journaling or anything we do for stress management?
For me, I because my vision board is on my wall, I see it every day. I actually just changed it out. I removed some things that like I had achieved. I also added a few pictures. So like maintaining it, it truly depends on you. You can do it on a weekly basis. You can do it whenever you feel like it. I think I'm kind of rambling on that, so I'm gonna let Aminah answer that too.
So things I do is you really have to make sure that you understand that stress management and planning for your goals is just important as the work you do now. So if you put it in your calendar or your bullet journal, or if you put it in your Google Calendar to do it now for your work, do the same thing with self-care. And I know that may sound a little bit rigid, but as I said, I really like reading. That's something I do to kind of unwind. So sometimes I would set 30 minutes of reading in my Google Calendar, so I knew it was time to take care of Aminah. It was time to take care of herself. Or I put, this 2-hour block is to hang out with my friends, or this 2-hour block is to go on a walk or exercise. So if you have to schedule time for yourself, it's better than not having time for yourself at all.
Also, to add on to that, your journey of self-reflection and making your goals and visualizing them in stress management is not going to be perfect. It's bumpy. It's scary. You're navigating it for the first time ever or another time. And it's not going to be perfect. Like, I'm not going to be sitting here and telling you, oh, every day I journal, every day I think about my vision board and my goals. That would be a lie. Like, it's a journey, and I struggle too. And the people that are experts at this struggle too, right? It's about creating those habits and thinking about it, and being intentional through your journey. So and it's also about accountability. So I let people know, like an international trustee, Hannah Provoznik, I let her know that I had a vision board, and she kind of helped me get ideas, and she checks in with me every once in a while about it. So it's about those accountability aspects as well.
Yes. Getting an accountability partner I found is so helpful. So like I said, you can make vision boards or goal plan in a group setting. And so once you have that group setting, say we're going to keep each other accountable for the next year. So like you could have call-ins to kind of see what's going on, meetings, texts, just different things to check up with you. But I highly recommend getting an accountability partner. That can even be like a mentor in that space. I know I have so many mentors through my Key Club journey that kind of helped me accountable for like my goals, not only for my platform for when I ran for international trustee, but making sure I was taking care of myself during this position. So Kaylina, would you mostly put your goals on a vision board or just stuff that you love?
Do I put most of my goals or stuff I love, like me
Yes.
personally?
Yes.
I'd say for me, it's mostly my goals. It's half. I have, it's kind of bare right now. I have a few quotes. I ripped some pages out of a book that I liked. So I have a few quotes on there that keep me going. For example, one's called quit picking fights and go make something. So essentially like stop complaining or stop, like nagging people and like go create something that's good. I have, I guess right now, a recipe or two on there. I'm like, I want to make this at some point, so that's a goal. But I also have like, I found like if I find a brand that I like and support, I'll like put their logo on my vision board because I'm like, I want to continue supporting them, and I want to think about that when I'm out in the grocery store or I'm online shopping. So it's about half. In terms, I know I talked earlier about the blog post. I have like sticky notes and like a piece of paper on there, so that's more of a goal thing too, but it's about half and half for me.
Yes, same with me. My goals are things that I love, so it's really just like a good blend. You shouldn't have a goal if it's not something that you're dreading or excited to do. It may be daunting, but you should still love it and love the end result. So it's a blend. There's no particular way to do it. This is a really good question. Someone says, I'm going to be president of my Key Club this upcoming year. How do I implement vision boards and those types of things into my club to make an impact?
Yes. Okay, so Amina, feel free to jump in whenever, but we actually did this with the governors, the district governors of this class. We had an entire session just dedicated to making vision boards. We split up in groups and we allowed each other to be vulnerable with each other and what is on their vision boards. I got to speak with a group of people about what quotes they like and what inspired them. And then inspired me to make my own, add things to my vision board, maybe even make a separate one. And so it's so easy to have this during a meeting. You can get papers, you can get magazines, you can ask people to bring things, you can encourage them to do that. Obviously, it might be virtual now. But I think it's such a great idea, and it's such a great way to get to know people better because they're vulnerable with you. You get to know what their goals and their aspirations are too. And you as a club can make a vision board for the club about what your club wants to accomplish within the year. So, Amina, feel free to add. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think she's definitely the best person to answer that question. But I totally agree with what she said. Maybe sit down as an exec team or sit down as a club and kind of plan where do we want this club to be in the next year and how do we get there? I know another person's question is, how do you make sure you achieve these big, lofty goals? Well, you set milestones and little goals. So your vision board is for your big, overarching goals, but I keep to-do list. I have a bunch of apps, I have reminders to remind me to keep track of those small goals. So like say my big goal is being a Supreme Court justice. Well, I need to go to law school, but before I go to law school, I need to go to undergraduate. And before I go to undergraduate, kind of need to apply. So I have those things written down. First step, I've applied to college, I'm going. So next step is completing that, having a really fun time. So never feel like you're not accomplishing your goals fast enough, because again, these are dreams. If they were easy to achieve, they wouldn't be dreams. So where and how did you guys get the motivation and learn about these self-care and vision ideas?
For me, my motivation was my experience with burnout. I was in a very terrible place, professionally and personally. I was just realizing that I was constantly overwhelmed. I was out of energy all the time. I became a person that I didn't recognize. I had a moment, like the typical like coming of age movie type of moment where I just stared in the mirror and I was like, who are you, Hannah? Like you quote Harry Styles, who am I? Or like, wait, what is it that he says? I don't remember. Someone that knows Harry Styles might know, but
Am I a man or a Muppet?
what?
I said, did he say, am I a man or a Muppet?
Oh my gosh, it's in a song in Fine Line. I can't remember. Who am I now? Yeah, I think that's what it is, right?
Oh, yes.
Do you know who you are? Do you know? That's what it is. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't know who I was, and I had started to become a person that I didn't want to be. So that was kind of my motivation. My friend, like, because the people I surrounded myself with, I started realizing that I might be the reason why they might be unhappy as well. Like, I might contribute to that. So that was my motivation.
Yes. Sorry, still looking for questions. So lately I've been feeling really tired and overwhelmed by pretty much everything, and I've been distancing myself from my friends as well, which is something that I want to revert. So how can I recharge myself and get back to having the zest of life again?
Can you repeat that question? Sorry.
So this person was saying that basically they've experienced burnout. So how do they get back to a normal schedule? How do they get back to loving life?
Let's see. I picked up a book and I read something that inspired me. It's that one day a method. I started taking it off one day for me. Again, like each person is different. So like what I do isn't necessarily gonna work for you. I think the first step for me and what I said is the one day method, but also start to get to know yourself better, really focus on yourself, and ask yourself, do you know who you are? And yeah, I don't know. I mean, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, also, I know you mentioned you were distancing yourself from your friends. I found out that through this term, my friends were some of my biggest support systems. So I really encourage you to be open and vulnerable with the people around you, whether it be family, friends, mentors, teachers, and just tell them I'm really struggling with this currently, and do you have any ways to help? I know my friends constantly encourage me, constantly check in, and also you want to make sure that people understand your situation. So when you get that sense of like people understanding you and seeing you for who you are and your problems, you really have that support system there. But also it's so important to kind of just build yourself towards joy one step at a time. So just like Kaylina was saying, just start doing one activity that you really love once a week or like 3 times a week again. It doesn't have to be like you're at 0 to 100. It's a building process. You're ever changing, and we're not perfect as cute as this Canva is. So we're always learning and we're always failing. But I think the biggest thing is to never give up, and never stop trying to achieve what you want.
Right. I think you kind of touched on like, kind of isolating yourself from your friends, and not everyone might have the biggest support system with their friends, or their friends are kind of ditching them. I think someone said that, so their friends had ditched them. And that's a very like sad thing to hear, right? But it's about kind of exploring and finding a new support system, and that might be through a mentor, a teacher. I know for me, I heavily relied on my teachers when I was in school. There's several people online. There's so many people online through Instagram and stuff like that, and you can join groups, clubs. I recently joined a kayaking club on Facebook, and it's all these like 30-year-old men and women who are like kayaking, but like I know I have these people supporting me as I go through that kayaking journey, right? So there's different clubs. I know there's like bullet journaling. People said that. Guys, there's bullet journaling clubs and groups on Facebook. I've been added to a few. So that's been, a cool aspect of social media, right? And then also touching on the whole vulnerability aspect with these people. Vulnerability is such a cool thing. And I think it's incredibly scary. It definitely is. But it's actually something that I have been reading up on a lot these past 2 months because I realized I wasn't being totally vulnerable. I highly recommend you guys check out Brene Brown. her book, Dare to Lead. Also, she has a Netflix special that you guys should watch tonight. You guys can watch it together on Netflix Party, because I know you guys are talking with each other on Discord. But that was such a life-changing moment for me, because I learned that the shame and guilt that comes along with vulnerability and opening up with people is such a good feeling, and in the end makes you feel better. So, yeah.
Yes. So we're gonna kind of wrap up to our finals questions. We have about 5 minutes left. So could you reiterate what you mean when you say blocking out a day? I heard you mention not wasting time on social media, etc. But what sorts of things should replace it? Sorry, you might have said it, but I might have missed it. Did you mention blocking out a day, or did I?
I think I did.
Okay.
So blocking out, I guess it's a day for yourself, right? So in taking breaks from social media, what might you replace that with? There's a lot of different things. I mean, that's kind of that's where your passions come in. So for me, a passion for mine is reading, or I like houseplants, so taking care of my plants. Let's see, what's another thing that I like to bike. I recently have gotten into kind of working out in yoga, meditating as well. So like, you have to discover your passions too, and like, you can do that through this, right? Testing out a whole bunch of different things. I said that I went line dancing. I mean, obviously that was before COVID and everything. I just found these activities through the internet. So
Yes. Also, while we're answering the last of our questions, I think we're going to skip the discussion questions, because you guys have a bunch of great things that you're saying, and I want to make sure that we're answering what you guys want, but skip to the last slide so they can see our emails. A bunch of people are asking for those. And again, if you want the presentation, just email us, or you have any more questions that we didn't get to answer, email us. We'll be happy to help you. So I think this is a good one to kind of finish up on. What would your best advice be to your past selves in the moments of your deepest a rut of stress or lack of motivation?
my bad, I didn't hear that question. I just accidentally stopped.
No, you're good. What is your best advice to your past selves in the moment of your deepest stress or lack of motivation? I think I already know my quote. It's all going to be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. I'm, as I said before, perfectionist. So I always overthink. I'm always like, but what if this, what if this? But just knowing it is going to be okay in the end. And if it's not okay right now, it's not the end.
I guess for me, because when I was at my like rock bottom, I didn't know myself. I like thought I did, and I thought I was just like, I was very self-absorbed in a sense of like, oh, it's okay, like I'm the international president, like of course I know myself, like, you know, I'm this leader, this representative. But you know, I wish someone would have told me, or I wish I could have told myself, like, it's okay to not know yourself, it's okay to not know your passions all the way through.
Okay, so now the people are really asking, plug your socials. My Instagram is little.red.lobster. So in case you guys want to follow me, again, that's little.red.lobster. Kaylina?
Wait, I'm typing it for you. Mine's just at Kaylina Schnack, but without the apostrophe, obviously. So I'll put that again in the chat so you guys see it. It's
red.lobster.
Okay.
Oh
my gosh, wow, y'all are quick.
Yeah, no, you are. Also, I guess we'll just continue answering questions. Does anybody have a timer how much we have left? How long? Or
I don't know. I don't know if I see Laura in the group chat. Not the chat.
Well, we'll just go until they tell us.
Yeah, we'll just
tell us to
us off. So.
Yeah, I think you guys can go just as long as you want. So.
Okay, cool.
Hey, we have a club going on. Yes.
Okay, we love this. And of course, if you need to leave, that's totally fine. This isn't really related to
by the way, for the people that are leaving, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. We loved having you. Thank you so much. This isn't really related, but how do you get comfortable with talking to big groups of people?
I have never gotten comfortable with it. I'm still uncomfortable with it, right? I don't know. It's kind of, for me, it's because I'm passionate about certain things. I'm passionate about vision boards and stress management and stuff like that. So it's easy for me to ramble about that. But if someone wanted me to talk about like sports medicine or like how do you work out effectively, I'd be so nervous because I don't know what that is. So I don't know, finding your space that you're comfortable in, like the topics for me at least.
I think I agree. I've always been a really big people person. I could say one of my gifts is definitely the gift of gab. So how I've gotten comfortable with talking to big groups of people is just understanding the base fact is that we're all people, whether I'm an international trustee, or you're talking to someone famous, you're talking to someone you look up to. We all have dreams and inspirations. We all want to be loved at the end of the day. We all want to be happy. So just acknowledging that no matter where they come from or who they're going to be, we're all people. It brings a genuine connection there. And it's much easier to begin a conversation or start talking to big groups of people when you understand that everybody's just human. So I think that's my advice. Also, someone said, I've considering having a diary or a journal before, but pouring out feelings into a book sounds amazing for me, except for the fact that I get worried about being exposed or having someone read it in my house. Tips or detour recommendations?
Online is a good option for that. There's journaling apps if you feel more comfortable on your phone. Now, if someone has access to your phone, that might be a little bit more difficult. I'm trying to think of other ways around that. If possible, I know school is not necessarily an environment that we can be in right now. If there was a teacher that you could be comfortable enough leaving that notebook with in their classroom or in your locker, if that's a safe space for you, that's a good option if we ever get back to that environment. Mina, do you have any suggestions that you?
Yeah, I would say virtual is probably your best bet. Also, they do have journals in which you can have a physical lock on it, so maybe that's something you think about. But also, I know that there's a bunch of different apps where, to get into your quote-unquote journal, it requires a passcode. So maybe taking something along that route would be really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is going to be our final question. Again, thank you guys for everything. This has been great. So someone says, I'm scared to set goals because of the chance that they might fail or my hard work will amount to nothing. Do you ever deal with this and advice to overcoming this fear?
You want to start us off?
Yes. So I deal with this all the time. As I said, I have really lofty goals. So there are just days where I'm like, you'll never be able to do this, Amina. This has never been done before. You can't. But I think the thing is, you really have to believe in yourself. And also, yeah, someone said start small. So just start working towards those milestones or those little things to build you there. Start building the skills that you need for these dreams. Start acquiring the necessary people to surround you that you need for these dreams. There's nothing you can't do. So continue to work on yourself until you really believe that.
Right. And goals are ever changing. As you go through them, they might adapt, they might change. And failure too. So for me, I really wanted to go and attend Indiana University for college. I'm from Nebraska, and going out of state tuition is really expensive. And so that was a huge goal of mine for about 2 years, and I really visualized it. And when I had to come to the tough decision that I couldn't go because of financial reasons, that was really hard for me because that was a goal I was working for, right? And I accepted that failure. It took me about a few days to accept that failure, but from that, new opportunities came, right? So I decided to stay in state, and I have now 3 roommates that I'm going to be living with, and one of them has their father is the founder and a director, executive director of a huge nonprofit in Nebraska. So from failing that dream of going to Indiana, I found a connection to get started in this huge nonprofit that I'm really excited about, right? So goals are ever changing, and with failure brings new opportunities.
Okay, if you could leave everybody with one piece of advice, what would it be? I think mine is I kind of have two. Like I said, I'm kind of quirky, so be the ripple that starts the wave. Don't be afraid to be the one to stand out. Don't be afraid to be the one that makes change, because that's how you create a wave of change. And also, I would say use every failure as a learning opportunities. They're not failures; they're just opportunities to learn and grow. And when you start looking at life that way, when things don't go your way, it completely changes who you are as a person.
I think for me, those are great advice. Like, that's great advice. I mean, I wish you would have told me that a year ago. All right. I think for me, it's be vulnerable with people all around, right? It's like Amina and I have been incredibly vulnerable throughout this presentation, and it feels amazing to be able to talk to you guys, and you guys have been vulnerable as well. And I just really appreciate that. So be vulnerable, because from that creates so many opportunities and creates safe spaces. I had another one. Oh, always be learning, always be looking for new things and exploring. If there's a book that interests you, but reading's not your thing, keep going, like find other paths through that, and keep watching documentaries, keep reading, find articles, find people, and always ask why. Why do you do that? Or how do you do that? So yeah. That'd be mine.
So again, a final thank you for coming, everyone. I've enjoyed you. Don't worry, if I didn't get to your question, I'm so sorry, but there were so many of you guys. I absolutely love you guys popping off in the chat. It was so great. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, prayer request, email. Each of us will be happy to give you this presentation, answer any final questions you have. And again, don't forget to follow our socials so we can keep in touch. But other than that, thank you so much, everyone, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you guys. Bye.